Hi, I'm Debbie and welcome to Book and Bujo, where I talk about all things books, bullet journals, and stationery. Apologize for the lighting. The sun has decided to shine right in my little reading corner this morning. So hopefully it's not too bright and blinding for you. But today we are here to talk about my May Readathons and how I did. I will leave a link to all of the readathons I participated in the description box below, so you can go check them out if you want. Also, I always chapter all of my videos, so if there's a particular readathon you're interested in, you can go ahead and skip to that one, skip around back and forth. So the first video that I participated in was A Year in Aeldia, or Adventures in Aeldia, with G at Book Roast. So again, I have two characters. I have Ariel and Karasu that are going through Aurelium. And so this is a choose your own adventure, and both Ariel and Karasu on different paths. So I do more of the different prompts and things that are in there because they are just so much fun. For May, my first character, Ariel, stayed at Aurelium Academy and had to read a book that ended on an even page number, and she read The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. My second character, Karasu, traveled to Carador, and he had to read a book that finished on an odd page number, and he read Plague of the Shattered by E.E. Holmes, and that is the second book in the Gateway Trackers series. They both thoroughly enjoyed their reads. So readathon number 2 was May the Force Read With You with Eric at Break Even Books. This one is a month-long readathon, and so it went from May 1st to May 31st. First, you had to choose a character. So I chose to be an Ewok named Nessa and had to read a comedy. So for that, I read Eric, which is the ninth book in the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. Next, you got to choose your weapons, and of course, Nisa wants to be prepared, so she chose a weapon and a backup weapon. So the first weapon was a lightsaber. Of course, you have to have a lightsaber, right? For the lightsaber, you needed to look at a color wheel, and then you chose the color opposite of your favorite color, and so Nisa's favorite color is black, and opposite of that was white, so she needed to read a book with a white cover, and for that she read The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. That is probably one of the most heartwarming books I have ever read. It was just adorable and so sweet, and just filled with great life lessons. 5 stars, I highly recommend it. Nisa, again, wants to be prepared with her backup weapon, and for that she is getting a blaster and had to read a book in a different spot every time she picked it up. And for that she read Pox You, and that's by Brad Mingarella, and it is the first book in the Craft and Tabby series. This one is really short, so she wanted to make it easy on herself, and so she only had to read this one in 2 sittings, and she read it on the couch and in the car. And this book is a fun paranormal mystery that has a foul-mouthed cat. That isn't just a cat, but a captured goddess, I believe, and that's been shoved in the cat. So for quick getaways, because you never know what's going to happen, Nisa also wanted to get a spaceship. So she had to read a book with a vehicle on the cover, and for that she read A Spike and Angel Volume 1, which is by Brian Edward Hill. And this is also the 3rd volume in the Angel series overall. So next up, Nisa had to choose some accomplices or team members to help her through her journey, and found someone in the Great Empire, and all she had to do was read a book with 3 or more people on the cover, and for that she read The Watsons by Jane Austen. She also thought it would be good to have someone she could trust in the First Order, and she had to read a book with a prologue, so she read Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Next, Nisa had to decide what path she would take, the way of the Sith or the way of the Jedi. So she decided to break with family tradition, and she chose to work her way up through the Sith Order, the only Ewok in her family to ever go to the dark side. To become an apprentice, she had to read a rough-looking book, and so she read Green Eggs and Ham by Dr. Zeus, because it's missing its spine, Some of the paint is coming off. Yeah, it's rough. The edges are all worn. It is a very well-loved book. So moving up to Sith Master, Nisa had to read a book that came out over 15 years ago, and so she read The Merry Adventures of Robin Hood by Howard Pyle. So to become a Sith Lord, she had to read a book over 600 pages, which also counts as 2 prompts, so you could do 1 less prompt with this one, as she read The Bone Hunters by Stephen Erickson. And then to move up to Sith Lord, she had to read a book off someone else's TBR, and so she chose The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. And in order to prove herself as a Dark Lord of the Sith, she went a bit overboard and completed 2 prompts, even though she didn't actually need to do either of these. The first one was to read a book you shocked you haven't read yet, and she picked Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. The second was to read a non-fiction, and so she read My Mother Was Nuts, a memoir by Penny Marshall. So, mission complete. Nisa has become a Dark Lord of the Sith. On your way down to the description box to check out some of these different readathons and the amazing hosts that created them, be sure to give a thumbs up and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any other videos from me, and you can find out how I did with the rest of my May books. So Readathon number 3 was the Great Plateau mini round number 2.5 in the Breath of the Wildathon with the Little Book Owl, which took place from May 15th to May 24th. So it's just a little short one. And there are 5 quests and 2 bonus challenges for each team, and I'm on Team Rivali. And we started at the Shrine of Resurrection by sharing my TBR on the Breath of the Wildathon Discord channel. From there, I traveled to the Ja Baij Shrine and entered the bomb trial and had to select a reading challenge from any previous round, and I chose to read an action-packed book set in a faraway land. And for that, I chose to read The Last Argument of Kings, which is the 3rd book in the First Law trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. After surviving the bomb trial, I journeyed to the Omen Ah Shrine and found myself in the Magnesis trial and had to read a sequel. I chose to read the 5th volume of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, The Biggest Bad by Jordi Belair. Now, on to the K'nat Shrine and the Cryonis trial. So you had to read a book with a fly buzzword, so a book with fly or any related word in the title or on the book cover. I barely passed this trial by reading Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett, as I couldn't find fly in the title or on the cover of any of the books I had. And so I figured something that moved, because you have flight, fly around, so I figured moving would work, and I just scraped by going through that trial. I did make it to the Awa Dime Shrine and had to go through the Stasis trial and had to participate in a reading sprint, which I was able to do, and that was on Steph Love's channel for her final book support group. For the bonus challenge, because I'm extra and always have to do the bonus trials, I passed through the Forest of Spirits and had to read a book with mythical or supernatural elements, and I read Plague of the Shattered by E.E. Holmes, again, which is the 2nd book in the Gateway Trackers series. This brought me to the Temple of Time and reading a book pertaining to the passage of time, so I read Eric by Terry Pratchett. My quest is complete. So my final readathon number 4, was round 7 of the final book support group with Steph at Steph Loves. This round was a bingo format with 9 spaces, and there was 1 free space in the middle. 3 of them are non-reading prompts, and then the other 5 were chances to read down your series. So the top row, first space, is to read a graphic novel, a manga, or a small book, and I chose to read a small book, and that was The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. The second space was a self-care space, so I decided to make myself some popcorn, have a ginger beer, and just sit down and read a book. The third space was a final book, so I read Gods by Edna Walters, and this is the last book in the Eric trilogy, as well as the final book in the Runes series. So for the second row, the first space is to read a recent purchase, and for that I read Pox You by Brad Mangarella, and that is the first book in the Croft and Tabby series. It's unfortunately a first book in a series, so starting a new series, but it was my most recent purchase. So, and of course, the middle space was a free space. So the last space in the second row was Continuation Station, and I read Angel and Spike Volume 1, All the Devils Are Here by Brian Edward Hill. And so it is a Volume 1, but it's actually Volume 3 of the Angel series. So it is a continuation. And Walter decides he wanted to come join us. Yeah, you go. You want to say hi, Walter? Say hi. So the lighting's even worse now. Sorry. The last row is to share on your socials, which I did here on YouTube. I'll leave it up in the cards and linked below, but you can check out that video there. And that was the May Readathons that I was going to be participating in. And then the middle row is to take part in a sprint, which I did on Steph Love's channel. And lastly was a poll pick. And the winner of the poll was The Hope of Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. Round 7 is complete. So that was all the readathons that I participated in May, and I'm happy to say I completed them all. What readathons did you participate in May? Are you participating in any in June? I'd love to find out. Let me know in the comments. Are there any readathons coming up that you're excited about? I'd love to find out about them. Anything that's coming up in July or August maybe? Thank you so much for joining me, and if you made it this far in the video, let me know you were here by leaving a spaceship emoji in the comments to celebrate Nisa's success in becoming a Dark Sith Lord. And I will see you in the next video.